Welcome to my 2025 BCS Tampa Birthday Spectacular, by which I mean that I couldn't go because my flight got canceled, and then I tried to schedule another flight and that got canceled, and then I tried to schedule another flight and that got canceled, and then I tried to schedule. So long and short of it, hope you all did great. Saw some of my social media friends that topped and stuff, so good for them. Wish I was there. So instead, what I'm doing for you guys today is not only one deck profile, but two. So I want to show not only the tier 0 deck that I probably should have legally brought, but also the secret weapon that I was actually going to bring and totally was going to talk with. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive on into Deck Builder. If you guys enjoy what I do here and want to help this birthday boy feel a little bit better about not going through his entire Florida plans, make sure you subscribe and see more videos in the future. It's Levidras. Before you guys click away, because oh my god, Levidras, oh my god. It's the one that I didn't want to bring personally. That said, you guys know that I played the dress since the last set where it wasn't the best deck in the world. I've always been a fan of Infinite Dragon. Make sure you check wherever I post this video. There's a couple of Levidras vids on the channel already. That said, let's go ahead and do a quick breakdown because that's what you're here for. Year of the Sneck. It is the year of the Sneck. And he is a Sneck Dragon. It counts. Radline itself, you just have to run this. You legally have to run this starter specifically for this card because it lets you ride for free. And that's now more than ever is kind of necessary. I mean, set for Levidras, I was able to mess around with it a little bit, but because how peace reliant the deck is, you have to keep a specific hand, so free ride's just good. You don't not do it. Although a little look into the past, I was previously running an order engine using the original Zorka grade 1 because that's a free plus, and you know, you could always do like railroad token spam or freaking Maple, just get free units on board. I don't know, like I said, you could experiment in the past, but now you kind of legally have to run this guy, I guess. I mean, it's just free. Scyther is a good Pokemon. Energy Blast 3, check top 5 when you ride. Add anything to hand. There's nothing to complain about this card. It's such a good card. Here's the main deck. Imperio. We run 4 Imperios, obviously, and 4 original Levidras. This is my silver rare copy that was in the original deck. You know it, you love it. You basically, once per turn, have the ability to activate any cost counterblast to a soul charge from hand to activate his ability and make some markers. If you soul charge Levidras, because you get the game, you make more markers. And if you happen to get the original Levidras in soul, you suddenly can activate his divine skills. So he's a good, I mean, obviously you go first, you're able to make 3 markers, you go second, you're able to divine skill right away and have like these set up. As much as there's hate for this deck, as much as there's hate for the Infinity Eyes and everything, it is the most skill thing in the game because you always have to know where you want to put your markers. Do you want to be aggressive with it and just push for game right away? Do you want to be defensive with it and do your opponent's rear guards? Do you know that your opponent's playing more Vanguard centric decks so they don't really care about it? Want to bait them, put it on their back row so they don't boost with anything? There is a lot of skill going into your placement of these Infinity markers, which is both a blessing and a curse. It's super cool. It's a skill check, but because of that, reason number 1 that I didn't want to play this deck at regionals, time sensitive game, the whole like 30-minute best of 1 instant double loss thing. With the amount of thought that you need to put into this, you have to either have every single match, every single play memorized at all points in time, or it is going to cause for a very grindy game style just because you always have to think where to put stuff, and that's going to take some time. That said, obviously the card itself is solid. It scales for power because the more Levidras you get in soul, the bigger this boy gets on his own, which is great without boosting. And free draws, free force markers. What else is there to say about the King of the Infinite? Moving on to some support cards, we got this new girl, the Musketeer Lady, Charmeau, who has 2 soul skills, so of course we're running 4 copies of her. And drop zone, if you have an Infinity Eyes marker, you're able to call this for Soul Blast 1. Free unit is free. And more importantly, when she attacks, if you have an Infinity Eyes marker in the same column, blow up one of you guys, she gets a little stronger with +10. They can retire her and draw a card. So replace herself is a free unit as long as you have soul. If you're paying the right cost, you almost never play kind of lots for this guy, you should have the soul for it. Another 4 of is Ye Old Intenigaster, the chakra monster that isn't. Once again, has 2 skills based around infinity markers. Reason number 2 that I don't like playing this deck too much is the amount of setup that you need for everything, being that most of these cards do require you to have a certain amount of infinity markers, and if you don't have the Levidras to charge, you get to your magical 3, you just can't play like half the deck correct. Once you get there though, you're able to Energy Blast and Scry 2 cards, 1 to hand, 1 goes top or bottom of deck. Need I say more deck thinning, deck winning, add cards to hand, stack a trigger, don't see a trigger, put it at the bottom of the deck, see a perfect card, put it on top of your deck. You know how it is. This is a plus engine, it is amazing. And with its second effect, it can also affect the attack from the back row if it's the only copy of itself that you have. Very good could be Shocker Agent. I rate like 8 out of 10 because they could have made a Common Ride reference, they didn't. Other staple game too, we got the cat girl for all your furries out there. I mean, we vibe it. I love this claw hand so much. Once again, if you have Infinity Eyes marker in the same column of this, you could call something out from your drop zone. This is still okay. Of course, you're gonna resurrect stuff. And if you happen to reach that magic 3, she's gonna get +10 on her own, making her a 20k attacker, which is good because this deck attacks a lot. It is Magnolia on crack. That said, we only run 3 because it is costing a Counterblast 1, which normally wouldn't matter too much because Levidras, like I said, you're probably going to be using a soul charge ability, but if you happen to be on a normal Levidras, you just cost Counterblast as well. And you kind of see in the corner, Secret Tech number 1. This guy. This is like the newest addition to the deck before I started doing its final test runs or whatever. So I know how everyone wants to play the Keter Stoicheia version of it because it like lets you mill cards and get cards back to your hand or whatever. But it's also like $50 right now, and I don't feel like shelling out $200 just to have the most competitive version of a deck that I don't really care as much about that I want to. So this works too. On placeability, you're going to be able to make a token, so you do have a little bit of early game rush with it. That's one of the things that Levidras struggled with, was it basically did nothing for her first 2 turns. That's why the ride line had to be this. You can't wiggle around with that at all. To make a token, then have a couple different choices of ability, just like all these dual wield cards. In this case, you're either going to be able to strengthen all of your superior called units by 5,000, or increase the power of your Vanguard by 5,000 / 10,000 if you have board. This works very well with the deck. Of course, with the second ability, the main aggressive strategy of this deck is to get 5 attacks a turn, so more than likely you will have a board. If not, I've already mentioned 2 other revival units in this deck without going to anything else. Use Spirit Call a lot in Levidras. So the giving +5s there is going to help out a lot. Of course, like I said, a lot of attacks means a lot of chances for your opponent's defensive trigger, and any buff that you get on those does count. Obviously not the correct one, but I mean, if you need a budget, these are like $10 when I pick them up. Hopefully they don't shoot up too much more with coming out. Finally diving into the grade 1s, this is like the boring part. You got Perfect Guard, you run 3 Perfect Guards because I also got the Elementara. Freaking Squirrel, the most broken card in the game apparently. Ban Squirrel, don't ban Squirrel. Squirrel's fine. When it boosts, you can do Soul Blast 1. And then you move it to an open circle and it gets +5 if you move it to that open Infinity Eyes circle, so you get multiple uses out of it. It becomes a 13k, which is 23k because it's on a circle that has the marker, and the marker gets a +10 to your guys, so it's 23k attacker because you're going to combo with the next card I say to give it an extra attack. And if not, you still have a huge booster on another attack. Squirrel good. I am genuinely surprised that Coney hasn't got up in the last 5 seconds with the amount of times that I've said Squirrel. And of course, Wonder Twin number 2, we have Foxel, who I run as a 4 full copies of, a full playset, which I feel like 2 to 3 typically your magic number in this deck, being with all the revival and stuff that you have and all the searchability and stuff that you have. But this is just too important of a piece. You need to have that multi-attack that he gives you. He is the reason that you're able to give one of your back row units the ability to attack for an automated 4th attack, in addition to your 5th from Tentagaster. Won't worry about it. This is the reason that this deck is Magnolia, and because that is absolutely imperative that you draw him. Full 4 copies of it, in my opinion. In my test, when I wasn't running 4 copies, I was just sad when I didn't draw it because my games were vanilla. Special 28k booster, Counterblast 1, give your ability the back row, attack +10. Yay! Effectively, you're looking at 2 Counterblasts per turn between this and if you activate like a cat girl or dual nation buggy dragon flower thing, that guy over there. As far as trigger lineup goes, this is standard, not really. We got crits, crit. I have it split up like this because I love these arts. 8 crit, 3 draw, 4 heal. I think that generics are fine right now just because we can't really predict the meta too much. If you're talking about the big 3 being Raziel, this deck, and maybe Jumbo Splasher, Monster Batman, 2 of those decks don't really do anything special. Monster Batman, yes, you get your crit one, yes, you get your restand one, but that deck is a total gambit in the first place anyways, so any guard you get against is fine, really. And the other 2 decks don't have a restand, they don't have a crits. You could run to a stride deck and be like, oh, run a special heal for that, but it's not worth it to have a 10k shield, honestly. Just generic shields are fine. Totally not covering up the over trigger of choice. There it is. Look at it go. We run Big Boy Blue over here. Stoicheia is one of those weird nations where you could run pretty much anything from the generic nation 1 to most of the Cray Elementals competitively. I just think, if you think about them, purple, you get the heal damage call card. You have full board most of the time. The heal's nice, but you have full board most of the time. Red, restand. Sure, make one of your 5 attacks into a 6 attack. Why not? White, board wipe. Funny. You don't need it, and you draw out your ass anyways this deck, so you don't really need to worry about the draws. Yeah, this one. You get to retrieve a card, which is super good because one of the things with this deck is that while it is extremely aggressive, while you have your 5 big attacks and you make scary numbers on turn 3 if you have the nuts. If you don't, this is a very grindy deck. Any way you have to retrieve cards and basically prolong it even longer until you have your win condition, the better. Not to mention crit pressure. Crit pressure good. So we do go with Little Boy Blue here. You could use pretty much anything. Bust Favor is awesome as always. I like the blue one in this deck. Then finally, as you can see down here, of course this is still Kea. This is Ordination Part 1 outside of Brant Gate, so we do have a couple of orders in the deck. You already saw me talk about Elementaria. Obviously, we run 3 Perfect Guards 0 on one of these. Got Secret Weapon number 2 right here, Misty Arc Habitats. This is something that a lot of people are running if they don't have the freaking whatever cards. Essentially, check top 7, tutor out anything that is the same grade or lower as your Vanguard. This is good on a turn except for turn 1 because you don't really have too many grade 1s outside of the 1-2 combo if you really want to be that aggressive with it. And once again, Levidras, you don't really do too much on the first 2 turns, so this helps you make a board on those first 2 turns just to create some pressure and do stuff. I have found like success in calling a piece like an Intimigaster turn to, oh no, it's vanilla, you can't do anything without markers. That's fine. He's an attacker, he's an interceptor, and you just revive it with something else later. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Most of the time you discard Intimigasters anyways. Just gives you a little early game aggression, and if you don't have your pieces, it's top 7 for one of your pieces, which is always good. Which means effectively this is another copy of one of your pieces. I've also in the past messed around with the original one, freaking, what's it called? Imperial Virtual Body Condensation. I like the promo art a lot more, it's so cool. But unfortunately, ever since we have the advent of things like Sharmo that do care about soul, the advent of you caring about number of Levidras and soul now, soul is a bit more of a commodity than it used to be, so you can't really cheat that out. So this good, you run this. And finally, just real quick, the choice for our Galaxy piece of this deck is Twin Cast. Once again, this has multiple uses out of it. Between your ability to minus 10 stuffs off the Infinity Guys markers and things like this I can use multiple times, do good for long game. And with Levidras, the long game is a scary game because the longer you have, the bigger your hand gets, and the more you're able to reach your pieces and do your full combo. So that's the broken thing I should have brought. But like I said, there's something a little more interesting that I was going to bring that I do think honestly would have been insane. But before I tell you about that, here's the world's lamest commercial break, because if you guys want to help support me on this channel, make sure to check out my page on TCG Player where I sell card game stuff, or you know, drop me a tip on Ko-Fi. It's like Patreon, but not as cool. I want to say like that would have helped fund my trip to Florida if I actually went and done school over by the airplanes, but does of course help get those cool cards you saw for Levidras. Does of course help to send me to places that I should have gone to for different vlogs and more content. And speaking of content, we did buy this. Finally. So that's going to come out sometime in the future. I might honestly be streaming it right now by the time this video goes live, paid for by your support on Ko-Fi and TCG Players. Make sure you go there if you want to help support me on this channel, because I'm not cool enough to have sponsors yet. Anyways, now we get to the fun part. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Zed Lance as the starter. I like the cool blacksmith starter steampunk thing. Zed Lance should be so funny if it was playable. But I was legitimately thinking about bringing freaking Vyrgilla to BCS Tampa. You know, the funny starter deck card that everyone bought just for Gallus Piece, and apparently he is in Dear Days as a downloadable thing. I've seen a lot of people that actually care about Vyrgilla in the last few weeks because of Dear Days, so shout out Vyrgilla Nation once again if you want to see my breakdowns, because I have been playing it since it was just the ride line. There's vids on the channel, make sure you check those out. But this actually kind of slaps. Looking at his main abilities, you're able to once per turn Energy Blast to revive a card, and at the same time, not just retire, but bind something on your opponent's side of the field. This is insane. The fact that you have effectively a free control that you get from your once per turn Energy Blast is good. Once again, going back to the big 3 that I just mentioned. Razile, they like having their pieces. Levidras, they like having their pieces. Monsters, they like having their pieces. Even a stride deck like Night Bird or something, they like having their pieces. You are not getting rid of the pieces. You are not sending them to the drop zone where they can easily be revived or sent back into whatever loop they have. You are removing them from the game. This is bind control. It's a once per turn, which kind of sucks, but is a big plus. And in addition to that, of course, this is a Dragon Empire deck, so you have an ability to restand a guy, which leads into a couple different situations. Long and short of it, aggressive control deck. Let's break it down and see why this deck is actually insane. This happens in like Varga decks, apparently. You just run it because that second ability that when you ride, you Soul Blast to ride for free. Enough said. If you do have a first turn aggro play with this, you're able to give him +2 for each of your rear guards. So it's mini Alfred. if you do have first turn grade 1 rush, this goes hard. Which is good because spoiler number 1, there Shenri is in this deck. We'll get back to that in a second, but Shenri is best friends with first turn grade 1 aggression. Speaking of aggro, the deck just continues on right away with our friend grade 2 Vyrgilla Shooting Star, who has 2 different effects. Once again, second effect makes it really good generic. I can honestly see generic Dragon Empire decks running just for the fact that when you ride over it, check top 7 for a grade 2. Deck thinning, deck winning. Enough said. Search it out your grade 2 attackers, or in this case, you can search out a grade 2 order, which we'll get to in a second. But other cool thing on this, first effect, if you have 4 or more rear guards, you get to reveal a card with Vyrgilla in your red line, and this boy gets a crit. That's right, this is a V format Blaster Blade, which you guys already know I'm going to say about me and blasters. Bushiroad, can we please have the Blaster Blade promo? That's all I want. Because of this, you have extreme turn 2 aggro. You'll see pretty soon with the way I build this deck that it's very easy to just spam the field with a bunch of grade 1, grade 2s on turn 2. Your opponent's not going to see it coming until they actually realize that you're on to Vyrgilla and not just using the ride line for generics. And because this once again combo with the order that I should just talk about and stop hinting at, you hit numbers with this boy. He can swing solo for like 31k for literally no reason turn 2. Because of this ride line, you effectively have a very aggressive early game. It's very easy to push your opponent very early on. Alright, let's go ahead and talk about the order real quick. Order package. I mean, that one's obvious. We don't need to talk about it again. Probably one of the most important cards in the Vyrgilla deck is its impact order, because we play freaking buddy fight apparently. Starter's Blade has an effect that doesn't matter to protect you for control premium applications, I guess. There's literally one Dark State card that can retire stuff during your opponent's turn. But the important part is you check your top 5 for something to call. Has to be equal to or lower than your current grade. And after that, you get this nice little red text that says your Vanguard's gonna get plus 3k for every normal unit between your field and your drop zone. Remember what I just said about grade 2 Vyrgilla being able to swing 31k for literally no reason turn 2 with a crit? It's because of this. It's because of this. It's because of this. Effectively, this card's going to scale the later the game goes on, because the more cards you put in your drop zone, the bigger you're going to get. Pretty easy to make big numbers as easily as turn 2, being that you're going to have 2 in drop zone from ride line at least, which is a plus 6 right there. If you do any field at all, if you want to play the way this deck is meant to be played as an aggressive deck, you're going to be fielding unit. Every attacking column's another 2 cards. Like I said, if you want your full 4 for the effect, that's 6 right there. 6 plus 2 equals 8 times 3 is 24, plus your base 10k. 34 double crit for literally just playing cards on the board. So that's insane, as long as you're able to make your other numbers matter for that turn. And like I said, this of course does scale, so the later the game goes, the bigger your boy is gonna get. Amazing card. Absolute 4 of. This is the reason that we most of the time will be searching this off the grade 2's ride line effect. Then while we're here, Miguel's piece of choice is going to be Radiance Caliber. Oh no, I'm not running the Vyrgilla one, the Vyrgilla deck. Blah, 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 blah. This is better. This deck is a bit of a toss-up. You can pretty much run whatever you want to in terms of Miguel's piece, but I just like the second ability, the one that lets it go to Soul and countercharge 1, because this deck does like to go through a decent amount of resources as one of its only weaknesses. You can either Pot of Greed, draw 2 cards, or you're able to generate a Soul for a couple of effects in order to generate a counterblast for a couple of effects. Pretty universe. Otherwise, use whatever you want, but I just think that this is like one of the decks that Radiance goes really good in. Moving on to the aggressive core of the deck, let's go ahead and talk about some of the grade 1s and grade 2s. First of all, start of the show here is your boy Ezward, the Blast Blade of the deck. This is a pretty simple 15-15 generic vanilla, basically, except the fact that you literally can't play it unless you're on a Vyrgilla. You can't play it or you can't guard with it. It's soul bound to the deck, whatever, but the important part is with these numbers. Turn 2 aggression once again. 15k going against a grade 1, that's a 10k guard. 15k going against a grade 2, that's a 10k guard, without doing anything else. That's either 2 cards out of hand, or that is a trigger out of hand, which now you know you got putting as less triggers. Cool. Also, speaking of triggers, guards for 15, that guard's like a trigger. Is the freest thing to field or have it in hand or discard for ride line, just because your ability to once per turn revive something from the drop zone, guess what you're gonna resurrect? Or your ability to stand something once per turn, guess what you're probably gonna stand? It's just the freest vanilla card ever, and I love it. This is your Blaster Blade. He not only has an Alfred in this guy, Fanver. I've never actually read that name, but he also has Wiggle that we're talking about in just a second. But while we're here, only other grade 3 in the deck. Like I said, this is an aggro deck. We run 3 copies of it. When it's placed Soul Blast 1, you be able to give him and your Ezward Blaster Blade that we were just talking about plus 5k. If your opponent's at grade 3, plus 10k instead. So this boosts up your numbers, especially once your opponent's at grade 3. Being a 25k V standard is pretty insane. And at the end of the turn, he goes in Soul if you activated your impact order that you countercharge and draw a card. This is another copy of Shenri. By the way, I just said it, we'll say it in a second. We run Shenri in this deck. You draw so much by being aggressive. Immediately get refunded for everything you do. Gives you more power on the aggro for no reason. Like I said, this is a very aggressive deck. I don't need to say any more about it. This is your Alfred. We talked about Alfred. We talked about Blast Away. What is our Wingull? Our Wingull is Nebby. Freaking Cosmore, and this is adorable, and it is a Nebby and Pokemon reference. Once per turn, when it boosts your Blast Away as were Energy Charge 1, refunds 1/3 of your energy for turn, which you're going to automatically burn on Vyrgilla's ability, and if it brings you to weird energy numbers, if you really need to, you can easily hit 7 for your draws in this game, or just refund for other energy effects like the energy grade 2 spoilers you can see in the corner, we'll talk about in a second. More importantly, this is why it's your Wingull. When Ezreal stands from ability, aka off-peak Vyrgillas, this also stands. So this is one card that you can just boost with automatically and not care about it, not care about your defensive triggers. This will just stand back up for free. And when he does, we're looking at 23k line without any other boost between him and Ezreal, which once again, your 13k opponent will have to guard with either 3 5ks in hand, which is 3 cards out of hand, or a trigger, which is another trigger you no longer have to worry about. Do that twice in a turn. Either clears out out of hand or clears out all triggers, and that is getting around the Vanguard itself, which of course your opponent's usually going to want to guard the Vanguard because, oh no, it could drive check crits or whatever, I don't know. Good Nebby. Probably go Soul Galeo because this is like the fire deck or whatever. Only 2 copies because we have to make room for other stuff, like of course I said the Shenmue already. 4 whole copies of this really good card. Simple ability when it boosts, if you either played an order or if you only have like 1 card on your opponent's field, whatever. +5, and then goes to Soul to let you draw a card. So just like Mr. Alfred Grade 3, this refunds you a card back for literally no reason. This gives you a lot of power for aggression. Turn 1, you play this thing. Haha! Rush, rush, rush with Grade 1's Alfred, get +2 or whatever. Turn 2, when you want your crit and want to make field. Rush, rush, rush. Big numbers because of this. Anything after that, so if you just have open spots in the field, rush, rush, rush. And you'll probably be able to get these easily back because the 2 cards we'll mention in just a second. Of course, rounding out our grade 1s, we have 3 perfect guards. You have to run 3 perfect guards. There's the other one down there. No one cares about it. This is a surprise tech. I won't tell you everything about it until we reveal the last card, but this is a new version of the Carbuncle clones. You can move a couple of red line cards to check your top 7 for another grade 3, not counting your Vanguard. Add that to your hands. And it has a shield ability to give it +5 if your opponent has at least 4 cards in the drop zone, plus another 5 if they're on stride. So effectively turns them into a 10k/20k shield. Was able to search for more flag boys. Or your Regardless piece, because it actually says card and not unit. Grade 2's time, mentioned it a couple times, this is the heart and soul of the deck. We have 2 Latifahs here. This is a card that basically combos very well with playing any order that turn, because if you play order and she's played, you Soul Blast 1, check your top 5, call a card or add another order to hand, boom, consistency. You can be hitting this off of Starlight Blade, or if you play it that turn and you played your Regardless piece, whatever. Soul doesn't matter too terribly much to this deck, because like I said, you're able to refund that with stuff like your grade 3 and Shenmue draws, and that's fine because you want cards in your drop zone at all points in time just to make Starlight Blade bigger. Speaking of bigger, if they have less cards on their field, she gets stronger. For every empty card in the column that she's in, she gets +5k, making her 20k, making her another good freestand option for Vyrgilla. Very good, we only have 2 in here just for the sake of deck spacing because it's just like kind of a win more, but a really good win more. I mentioned him briefly a second ago, we are running 3 copies of Foul Heart, your energy grade 2 discard card for the deck. Only 3 in here because 1P Rise is free. However, he has a really good Persona Ride ability, and that is you're able to choose a grade 1 for your drop zone and revive it. 2 good things right here. We get back the Shenmue, you can see her in the corner, I'm not even gonna highlight again, but you can also get back your Nebby, which is great because Ezreal loves his little pet Wingull. So really good setup card. This gives you a lot of things back, and of course, as always, Energy Blast 3, draw a card, Counter Blast 1, draw a card. Whenever you use this card for Ride Line or to guard with, outside of him, you're really only using Vyrgilla's Energy Blast ability, so you probably should have that 3 spare, unless you just like burn 3/2 of these for your Ride Line. Then final grade 2 that we have talked about is another Dual Nation card. This is one that I picked up a while ago, and I'm so happy I did because it's only gone up and up and up and up. And I need to get 2 more of these eventually, maybe. If once again, if you want to help support me on the channel, make sure to check out my page on TCG Player or drop me a tip on Ko-Fi so I can afford these guys. Ordinary Veritas. On place, Soul, charge 1, gets +5. Very good, refill your soul. We were just talking about soul a second ago, and him being 15k on turn 2 is good because numbers or whatever. And more importantly, you have 2 different choices for a Counter Blast 1. Either retire something grade 2 or greater, doubling up on control for the deck. Not bad. This is unfortunately a retire and not a bind unlike Vyrgilla, so they can always get back, but removal is removal. More importantly, second ability, call a grade 2 or lower out of soul. Feel Swarm. I was talking about how you can recover cards from your drop zone pretty easily, how you can recover your grade 1s with out of soul pretty easily. This is how you do it. You also use Foul Heart to do it. What up, Cosmore? What up, Shenmue? What up? Grade 2 use Soul Charge randomly. This card effectively makes your grade 2 turn very strong, so that's important to get that early aggro in with the deck, because a good only 2 once again, there's only room for 2, and not only own 2. I'm trying to save the best for last. You haven't seen them yet. Look at the triggers. Here they are. We run a lot of crits. Generic crits are fine with this because once again your soul doesn't matter, and if you have to feel one is a 5k booster, which does affect some numbers. 3 special fronts, extra shield, 4 heals. I already said it. BCN's really good on this deck, man. Let's just say it real quick. So grade 3, you guys are gonna be like goats. Therefore, your grade 3 turns. Vyrgilla's ability is not a once per turn, so anytime you attack, you can do a restand on your column, and that's really cool because the pressure that we already talked about, especially with the Nebby Vyrgilla column. This is also really good on grade 2. You know how you just make a board and get a crit for free? What if you did that twice? 4 damage to your turn 2 for literally doing nothing. You run Now Over trigger in this deck. It was Now episode this weekend when I published this deck and when the Tampa was. There's a Now card in this deck. We run 2 Vargas as a finisher. So, this isn't full Varga. We are running literally 2 copies of Varga. This was a last week decision. Basically, he's in here for your triple restand finisher turn. Of course, that front row board wipe does go in combo pretty well with the main strategy of this deck of being control deck, and Vyrgilla's control and the Fortner Reverse set does as well. More importantly though, this is a double attack on its own, which great, you get it 2 drive checks and you restand, make no scary attack. His divine skill, when your opponent's at 4 more damage, you're able to get another attack off with 2 more drive checks, making 4 drive checks off in total. And like I've been hinting at this entire time, Vyrgilla is an insanely aggressive deck. 9 out of 10 times, they'll be at least 4 damage by turn 3. So until you see it coming, your opponent's gonna be at like 4 or 5. This is where he shine. This is why he finisher. We not stay on the Varga. We can possibly stay on it if we have another one in hand, so you can just persona right into it. But it's very important that you keep this in and that you only use it as an emergency button. You have to gauge the situation. No, is it better if I just stay on my Vyrgilla and do wombo combo? Or is it better if I just go meow, rear, swing, nuke board, swing. Either way, you get about 5 attacks off in a turn. It really just depends on situation when you think you need to press the go button. That said, that is another reason why we do run the 1 copy of the grade 3 searcher. Effectively, you're able to just filter back and forth between these 2 as your main vanguards, and also search out your Ezwers and things. There's a lot of things to search for this, what I'm trying to say. Show! What you guys, yeah, I like this one? You guys like the other one? Let me know in the comments down below! What do you think would have been the right choice to bring Vyrgilla to the tournament? Once again, I swear to God that interview is going to become the scene with my friend that ended up getting top 16 in Chicago in our last one that we went to, because Equilibra? Exact same concept. Just punch him hard in the face, punch him fast, and boom, big numbers, go burr. Exact same concept, this just comes off of the Funny Trout deck card that I like. But I think that was a good idea, or should I just have brought freaking Stoicheia, good Magnolia deck? Yeah, Levidras tier 0, everyone afraid of squirrel. Comment down below, and while you're down there, make sure that little subscribe button is pressed, because I am so sad that I'm uploading this video right now at 299. That is so close to the next 100 threshold, and give me small hope that I can one day take all this coaster and card game content and go pro with it. But until next time, like I said, I am starting to stream the days. The first one's probably up by the time I get this whole thing posted and edited. So if you want to see that playthrough, y'all already know what I'm going to say. Till then, this is sad Rayo, because I got airport blocked from going on my Tampa trip. Good job everyone at BCS. I'm sad that I wasn't there with you. But until next time, always embrace the infinite.